Hi girls, welcome back to the Cozy Corner where we get to be ourselves and have real girl chats. If you are someone who enjoys getting into the juicy details of womanhood, epiphanies, friendship, money, and more, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Today's video is going to be a marathon. So get cozy, grab a drink, grab some popcorn, and just walk with me and understand that I have been going back and forth actually for a couple years now about should I ever talk about this in general. And of course, I'm making this video because the answer is yes. Being silent on issues when it comes to manipulation and control only benefits people who do these acts. It does not benefit people who can come across these people and might be manipulated or abused or whatever it is, controlled by that person. So before I jump into the gritty details of why I turned down a $600,000 annual partnership, I just want to make it very clear that in the Cozy Corner where we are together, I don't need to fabricate details. I don't need to, because I can also not tell the story. So I just want you to understand. There are some parts of what I'm going to say that don't need to be mentioned, because I'm not going to just say names and be very messy. But the figures and the details and my story and what I experienced is real. I don't really have the energy and talent to come up with a story that's not real, okay? So with that out of the way, let me just get into it. Back in 2020, when everything shut down, I was already working for myself, but work had slowed down, it tapered off. So I randomly, something just told me, hey, I feel like I should reach out to my accountant, my tax accountant, and just see how he's doing. He goes, oh, I'm good. Tax season was crazy. It was busy as usual. It's starting up again in January. Do you think you can help me out? And I was like, oh, with what? I didn't really know. I had never worked in the tax business before, accounting in particular, personal taxes, you know, like the W-2s that we get and you have to file them with TurboTax or whatever. Working at a tax firm, you are doing this for people. And of course, you charge them for it. And we know people could just do it themselves for free. There are some people who do not. Since I was 18, 19 years old, I had gone to this person because that was his bread and butter, or just the average person who needs to file their taxes, who doesn't want to deal with it. So oftentimes when I say, because I'm young and I don't run a mega company, people tend to assume, what are you talking, like they laugh. What are you talking about? You need an accountant. That's what he's called. Okay. I don't make up the rules. It's not trying to sound pretentious that I have had an accountant my whole adult life. So to get that out of the way. Yeah, I had an accountant who always did my taxes for me amongst all the other people who were his clients. That is how we first met. So I started working at the firm. I didn't really know what I was doing. I started off as a receptionist, even though I've worked out of this field. I've gotten further along in work. But when I started working with him directly, I was like, let me just start from the bottom, basically. I don't have any issue with that. It's 2020. I don't really know what's going on. Things are up in the air. Just let me get in here. Cool. And he paid well. So I started that. I started doing HR. I was doing reception work. I was just basically doing dirty work, honestly, for him. I was like, whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. He's a very, very, very busy, troubled, interesting, strange character, okay? He's eclectic. He's on a different wavelength. And if you know the person, you would know that this is all true. He just marches to a different beat, okay? And very busy. He took on a lot. He was doing way too much. Never had a time to take a break or breathe or focus on or just replenish, nothing. Working over 60 hours a week as the CEO. Where I came in, because of my background, I was like, hey, let me help you out with more of the executive assistant work, as in triage to your emails, getting everything on point. He had 6 figure, as in 6 zeros, I should say 6 zeros of emails that were unorganized. And I was like, no, you cannot do this. But he didn't have time. He didn't have time to do that. He was missing calls and voicemails, and clients were getting upset, but he's that good that people kept coming back. Trust me, he's that good and that skilled in the accounting world that people would keep coming back regardless. Even if he never answered his phone ever again, people would be calling for 10 years straight. Please, 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 can you do our taxes? That is where I ended up at this firm. I moved through the ranks. I started doing tax interviews, still as the assistant, executive assistant to him. I handled the staff. I handled meetings with clients, with business clients, like big, serious, heavy hitters. I just knew what I was doing. I'm a people person. I understand people. I understand how to tame the beast that is a customer. And I learned that when a customer is in front of you, you are not getting you are getting their representative, and their representative might be angry, upset, stressed, experiencing trauma at that time, going through grief, fighting with their husband or wife, just lost their job. That is who you are sitting in front of, not the actual person, because you are just coming into their life at a random point in the day when they have their own life going on. I was able to work it. I worked it. I understood when you're sitting with a group of there's kids, and then there's a mom and a family, and there's a screaming kid, like as I'm actually working, just take the kid and distract them, and and it gets the mom to just be able to calm down, or the dad, and working the crowd is what I did. When I'm sitting there with a very tense attorney who makes $500,000 a year plus, earning tens of twenties of fifties of thousands of dollars in their accounts, their investment accounts, they don't want people looking at their money. He's looking at me like, who are you? You're just this young girl. You have to tame that energy. I'm sitting there across from women who are in their 70s, who have had money passed down. Their accounts are well over 6 figures of investments that they got passed down to them. And they're staring at you like, if you even miss a cent and don't claim back 1 cent, you're done for. I've seen it across the board. I sit across from police officers, from people in the medical field, people. That's who these clients were. It was all these people. I've seen W-2s with $1.3 million on them, earned income. And dealing with that, and dealing with the people and the wives and the kids. And when you're sitting across from a man and he's handling the taxes, and he literally tells his wife to stop talking in front of you, and you have to deal with that. And then the wife looks at you like, wow, that's a really nice outfit you got on there. I've seen it all. And you have to calm her energy and be like, I don't want your husband, honey. It's a whole lot to deal with. And I did it at I think, what was I, 24, 25. And so I got promoted very quickly, not because of our history. I got promoted because he was like, I've never seen anyone ever. And I've been in this business for at that point, 15 plus years. I have had a partner who was a train wreck, but I was paying her 6 figures and she wasn't really on it like that. Oh my goodness, you are like a prodigy. And then from there, it was off to the races. We made so much money together. And then we hired on more people that were just, that worked. It was this perfect storm of the right people in the office, the right energy. He had to fire a bunch of people. Like, that's a whole nother thing that goes into dynamics of like when you have to turn employees way too much. It's not really the employees, it is the manager or the owner. Okay, you can see where this is going. But aside from that, people were in, people were out, people were in, people were out. But what was steady was the money was flowing, the clients were happy, he was happy, he was able to step away a little bit more because of me. And I know this to be true. It is because of me, because I was like, you are not answering that call right now. You're not doing that right now. If you don't have a leadership team or another partner who has equal power to you, or someone as your right hand as an executive, I know this because that was my job. If you don't have that, you end up being the secretary, the receptionist, the marketing, doing the meetings, the board member, the CEO, the CMO, the CFO, the COO. You can't do all of that. That is where a lot of how crazy working at this tax firm actually was. It was because he did not have any checks and balances, and someone else who knew more than him, because of his control, like because he couldn't stop trying to control his baby, aka the business. It is understandable. He's not the only CEO on this entire planet where that's ever happened, but that's a prime example. And I worked at a firm where that was the main issue. From there, so I went from making maybe 70, 75 grand, doing pretty well for myself as a single girl, to making six figures in 2.5 years. I said I worked my way up, and I was earning commissions, and I'm telling you, there was money flowing. Money was flowing, and you make all your money in the accounting world. Typically, it depends on how long the firm stays open. He also pushed it to the limit and kept the firm open for the whole year. No one does that. That's what people don't also know. No one does that. You usually close after the tax season ends, and October is when it ends for business clients, but maybe you get it done before. He stayed open all year and had maybe 1 month off. That's crazy, because you make so much money and you're supposed to taper off because you work crazy hours. So let's say, yes, of course, there are businesses that work all year round, but you're not working 16 hours a day. Like, yes, 16, you're not doing that all year because you can't keep up with that. So this man had been doing this for years and years. And when I worked there, I put my heart and soul, every single thing into it. And I was like, I want a piece of this pie because I actually do care about this. I care about him as a person. I care about him as an executive. I care about the clients. I'm in this. I'm good at it. I really like this. And I had no formal training in the accounting world, but I just knew what I was doing. I was also filing taxes under a P10, which is, of course, that's legal, taking CPE courses. I was in it, and I was making good commissions, like I said. Just money. There wasn't enough. There was too much, and it was just flowing and flowing and flowing and flowing. Vacations at the yacht club, vacations all over the United States and other countries. It was just great. I love accounting. I love taxes. I genuinely just do. Okay. I had found a passion in this industry, and the cyclical nature of it also makes it so that although that can be monotonous to some people, I liked it because it means security, job security, and it also just means you know what to expect and you know how to prepare. It's like going to war. If you know what to expect, you actually can prepare better and be ready. Now, the issue that came about as to why I turned down a $600,000 partnership with a booming tax firm in Southern California that is only going to double, triple its income within the next 5 to 10 years. There were elements of this CEO that you couldn't look past. When it comes to manipulation, he didn't do forms of manipulation that were really evil. He did the opposite. So anytime that I was either, and I also had moved out of state and I was able to work from home, and that got us to change the nature of the business and make it so that he didn't have to just be in one place. That was because of me. I was like, you don't need to see your clients every 5 seconds. Like, no accounting firm even does that anyway. So like, they're spoiled, as they should be. Their clients, they're paying. But I was like, you need to be charging more and you need to have mobility. So all of that change that ended up being positive for him, that means we had to be like this, okay? And he had an apartment, his home, but he had additional rooms. So when I was in town, I would stay in his home, and it was like there was no lines being blurred or anything like that. However, because I was dating someone, he was dating, I don't really know what he was doing. It wasn't my business. I don't care. After work, I'm allowed to just do what I want. If I want to go take a nap until the next morning, I can go do that. If I want to go party, I can go do that. If I want to go to dinner with my girlfriends, I can go do that. If I want to call my boyfriend, I can go do that, okay? Where it started to blur is that he would be like, oh, I was actually just gonna make lobster and steak and potatoes. Did you want to join? And I'm like, okay, sure, free. Why not? Like, he was like, yeah, I don't want you spending all your money. Like, you're young. He's 15, maybe 15 years older than me. So he's like, you're young, you're doing it. I want you to keep your money. Like, don't go spend all of your money that you make. Like, you don't want to be fat and happy when it comes to making money. That was also something he would say, which I do agree with. When you're too fat and happy, you start doing stupid things with your money. You either start doing drugs, you start going out all the time, you start buying tables for people because you think you have all this money and being dumb with your money and blowing it. You start gambling. When you're too fat and happy, you make dumb decisions with your money. But where the manipulation came in is where he said he would love, I'm gonna call it love bomb, but more like it would be like corporate bomb, professional bombing me with ways of saving my money. And so what that does is it trains me to always be around him. And so if my girlfriends were like, oh, we're going to go out, do you want to come? I'd be like, oh, I'm already eating steak and lobster. Because like, what gets better than that? I love a good steak and lobster. I have fine taste. He would be like, oh, by the way, I booked you a massage, a 2-hour massage. Is that okay? And I'm like, wait, really? He's like, yeah. Get off at 4:30. Go ahead. They know, and they know me at the yacht club. It became normal. That was my life. You go to the yacht club, and then you go to dinner, and then you go home, and then you go to the beach, and then you go to work, and then you get off early, and you just make money, and you live your best life. And I stayed in a really beautiful part of town. I just don't have any complaints. And because when I would start traveling there from the East Coast and I would go back, I would stay in the spare room. I didn't have a car because, hello, I was just visiting. He had an extra car, or he would give me his nicer car that was paid off. He was like, whatever you need, whatever you want. You want me to fill up you want to go out to dinner with your girlfriends? The times that he would let me and not change my plan, he would give me money. And I was like, oh, you don't have to do that. He's like, it's fine. You know how much I make. Don't worry. Like, I just want you to make sure that you're comfortable while you're here. And I was like, okay, like, thank you. But then I would come back, whether I was out too late or whatever. Remember, I'm already dating someone. I am not dating the boss. That's not what's going on here. Lines were not blurred like that. But he started being rude to me when I would come back, and he would be like, nice to see you. And I would be like, okay, you're right. nice to see you too, like good morning. And it started getting even worse, and just the treatment, he would just get more hostile with me the more he saw that his manipulation and his like work bombing tactics of like just over caring for me was his form of control, and making sure like, oh, I don't want you to spend your money. That was a form of control, because the way that manipulation and control works, technically this is called coercive control. Although we were not together, it's trying to control your movements and your decision making because they see you as theirs. Period. It doesn't matter in what way he saw me. I think you can figure out that there clearly he took a liking to me again, even though I was dating someone else and he was dating someone else. But also I have to add, this manipulation and control was not also just to me. I'm not telling someone else's story who worked at this place. It was to other people too. This is just my take on it. He was doing the same but different but same controlling nature to other employees too. He also, another red flag, he liked and enjoyed the book The 48 Laws of Power, and he considers himself, his own words, a Machiavellian character. He literally likes that and thinks that that is a way of life. If anyone ever tells you that, run. You are probably going to be their victim. And so the constantly buying me dinner and buying me, not gifts, like he wasn't buying me gifts, but it was just always anything I needed was taken care of. What he was doing was making it so I didn't need to do anything that didn't involve him, because all of my luxuries and comfort were with him. Do you see how it's hard to spot that, because we worked together. So he would be like, oh, I'm getting a massage, and I'm like, okay, cool. I wasn't always getting one as well. And then I would be like, oh, talking to one of the other employees, and they're like, oh, we just did jet skis over the weekend, or we're taking a trip. And I'm like, oh, you guys are going on a trip. Really cool. Love that. People are allowed to be friends with their boss outside of work. So he was doing this with other like males too. There were men and women that worked at this firm. So I didn't think anything of it. Like it wasn't just me at all. It just wasn't. And there was someone who worked at the firm who, she just had a lot going on all the time. And he was like, go home, do your thing, just come back when you're ready. He was very giving and booking massages for everyone all the time. So this was not just a me thing, but it became a problem for me when the partnership got introduced, because I learned this offer was not a real offer. If you turn down someone's offer and they retaliate, it was never an offer. All it was another control tactic, and you failed their test. And when you fail their test and they're trying to manipulate you, they see red. When you fail the narcissist test, you're gonna pay for it. And that is exactly what happened, okay? This partnership came about. It was drafted up. It's a real contract. I still have the contract in my documents right now that I'm not going to show. It's private. I signed an NDA for a couple years. But I also knew I could not sign a lifetime NDA. So let me make that very clear. I might give more details in a couple years when it is up. And I'm just going to be honest because I'm allowed to. This is my story. I knew not to sign a lifetime NDA because I was sort of picking up on this control, and he would get mad at me and pick fights with me this whole last year, this 4th year that I was working there. And I would be like, what is going on? My friends would be like, Kay, what is going on? It's like, we don't really see you anymore. Another red flag. Although we weren't romantic, it's the same as if we were. When your friends don't get to see you anymore. And he had made it so one of my friends and I were not as close and caused a rift. Red flag. My closest friend of a decade. Do you see what I'm talking about? And it is difficult to spot this. A little, I think it's even more difficult outside of a romantic relationship, because in a romantic relationship, this makes more sense, because there is that, I don't agree with it, but the sense of ownership on either side. Like, that's my man, that's my woman. But dude, I just worked for you, 1099. I wasn't even your employee. Where did this sense of ownership of my decisions in my life come in? I don't really know. I don't have an answer for you. I'm not him. But we drafted this contract, and then the tactic that they use in the military, I don't know if it's the military or just in war or police force, where they sit you down for an extensive amount of time to where you are delirious. We didn't eat. I didn't have any water. We drafted this contract. It took 8+ hours, and I was begging him, can we please pick this up in a second? And he just kept going and going. Red flag. What is that? Red flag number 4 or 5? That was another tactic he probably read in his stupid book, The 48 Laws of Power. I don't know. Now, we got this drafted. He would start crying. All of this manipulation. And when people start crying out of nowhere, to me, I mean, you can't manipulate me there. Because I'm like, why are you crying? There's no crying in baseball, dude. Pack it up. I was like, stop crying. That doesn't work on me. Like, that's where I think it's weird. You don't need to be crying in business conversation. So I already knew this is weird. That's where all of it started to make a little bit more sense to me. But again, I had a job to do. And I just had to let him know, look, buddy, we're not together. I need you to understand that the next time I have to come out here, I'm not staying in your home because you don't seem to have boundaries. Okay? Noted. So the next trip, the final trip that I had out there before I ended up going back to the East Coast to work and do another tax season, he was trying to cross more lines, trying to control what I was doing, and I just was like, I had to end the trip early, go back home, and just whatever. It's the end of 2024, okay? We had both given each other the limit, basically, the deadline of October 18th or something, where have someone review the contract on both sides, have them look at it. If this works, sign it. You will become an official partner. There will be a buy-in amount that you can either pay up front or it's sort of like a loan. And when I had people overlook this contract that he didn't know if I had actually had people look it over, but I had a conversation with someone who understands this whole back end of insurance and funding a policy that I'm not even going to get into those details, because that's just going to confuse you the same way it had confused me. This is where now I finally understand the issue with these 360 deals when it comes to artists signing with record labels. They're so excited to make millions. They're so excited to get the advance. All of that excitement makes it so that they don't realize that you are signing up for a 360, and a 360 in general just basically means, like, they're not all written the same, but it just basically means into perpetuity, I own every penny that you're gonna make. And they're buying you. This is what it means to sell your soul. It's not really that mystical and dark, like people try and make it all the symbolism. On real paper, on a contract, the selling your soul piece is clearly just in the document. That's where this all comes from. I would have sold my body, my soul, my energy, my life force. I would have sold my sanity, my own autonomy in order to be involved in this partnership because of the terms of the contract that were linked to a policy that through that policy he was making money and I would have had a policy too. It's this whole web that does not work well in my favor. I told him, hey, it's that deadline. Whenever you have a moment, let's chit chat. And I told him, I'm not going to be able to sign this. I think we should rework it for a way that it makes sense for me because there's nothing to rush into. I really love working for you and I think we'd be great partners, but this has to make sense for me. And I also went on a little bit of a leave because I had worked 4 years straight, like he did, alongside him. I just needed a beat. I needed a break. And remember, I'm not an employee. I'm a 1099, so I'm allowed to do this in the first place. That did not sit well with him. He saw red because I didn't do what he wanted. Do you understand? This is where it all made sense. And I'm like, thank goodness I did not sign this document, because the second I would have signed this document, he would have had his way with my entire life for the foreseeable future. And that's exactly what he wanted, was to make sure I wasn't buying into a partnership. I was buying into thinking that we were partners, but he would have owned my decision making, my time, my schedule, my life, everything. He was worried about so many other things that wouldn't have even made sense. Like, oh, and if you think you're gonna marry someone, just so you know, like, you have to make sure there's a prenup. Just all of these things where it's like, I'm a sensible person. I understand that, but all he cared about was making sure who I'm dating, what I'm doing with my life, where I live, how much time I spend in California. That is what he cared about. It was the control. He wanted to make sure he can control where my physical presence and energy was, and it must have gone to him and around him. That was the main goal of this partnership. Because when I turned it down, the mask fell off. His mask of, I've known this man since I was 19 years old. I was then now 26, 27, 28 by this point. Do the math. The mask dropped and he went dark on me. Blowing up my phone, harassing me, calling me names, telling me I need help, telling me I have mental health problems that could never be solved, telling me I need to go get help, and me living on the East Coast is not good for me, and the things that my decision making in life is just such low quality. And I'm like, the mask fell off. So ladies, when I tell you, I unfortunately know, and I don't, when people sit here and tell me they know their partners and the people they work around, but even more so, like, you think you know someone, even the man you're married to, I'm so sorry. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. Because you probably have not gotten him so in a place where the mask can fall off just yet. I'm gonna leave it at that. It doesn't really matter. Men are men, okay? And I'm not trying to bag on men. I'm just letting you know, you don't know who a man is until his mask drops. And men can wear a mask for a long time, just as we women can. And it was the most terrifying energy shift of my entire life. But I'm thankful that is all that he was able to do. I'm glad I was not around him when this happened. He sent back all, I had kept a wardrobe there because I was bi-coastal for many years. He sent it back in a trash bag. Do you understand? That's how he actually felt about me, because I did not fall under the strong arm he was trying to have over me. As the holiday passed by, we started the next tax season. That day he had me work, and then he called me and he goes, by the way, I'm cutting your percent to 20%. Since you didn't want to sign that paper, I'm not retaliating against you. Don't worry. Just being, he's such a manipulator, and I had gotten it. I had seen it all. I hit a wall with him in the first place 6 months before that because he was doing too much. Before I even told him no, I'd stopped being overly friendly and exclamation points and smiley face, and I was just doing my job. And that was already when he started being really digging at me. But the contract, when I said no to the partnership, that is when it hit the fan. So he had already been cutting me out of conversations and being strange, and like at meetings he would just yell at me if I said one thing. So I just stopped talking. And me not falling into the narcissist trap, you get punished, okay? I'm fully aware that I know much more about this CEO personally that I'm not going to get into because I don't need to. Believe me when I tell you the things that he has experienced, or in the way that he perceives the world and perceives people and perceives his accomplishments in his life and what he's experienced and who he's around and how he interacts with people, because I knew him like this on a personal, deep level. The man is a narcissist. Textbook. I don't need to be a therapist to see I was dealing with a narcissist, okay? Who was dealing with insecurity that probably created that. Long story short, just to wrap it up, randomly, out of the blue, after I had finished the long workday, did my job, did well, there was one client who did not answer, and I had called multiple times. She didn't answer. I left him a message, and then he tells me, one of our clients said you did not call her back, or you ignored her. He goes, he blew me up for hours after the workday had been done. Hours. It was like 9 o'clock. I had a friend over. We were watching a movie, kikiing, having a good time. Then he goes, you know what? It's not worth it. I don't need your help anymore. Send my computer back. You've been deactivated. Thanks for your help. I was fired on the spot in the middle of the worst economic time in 2025 for doing my job properly. And he was looking for any reason to let me go. That's what I'm getting at here, because he retaliated on me for not falling into his narcissistic trap. There's the story. I turned down a $600,000 annual deal partnership at a booming tax firm where the money was raining, and still is. And I do not regret it one bit. If you experienced what I experienced, you would do the same. Not all money is good money, and that is the prime example. And we've seen this example so many times, like how I was mentioning with artists, rappers, singers. I would have been on tour till I was 80. I know this with my whole entire heart now, that everyone has a price. You just have to figure out what is your price and for what. And in this scenario, there's not enough money in the world to get me to sell or sign over my sanity, my energy, my body, my my work ethic, sign it over to a man whose main goal was not to see me flourish professionally and boom as partners. It was literally to control my every single move, because he probably saw me as property and had other ulterior motives for our partnership. Thank goodness I did not sign that partnership, because I would not be sitting here today. I'll tell you that. Thanks for sticking around. I will see you in the next video.